Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. This is going to be the first installment episode of Savani Sports Entertainment. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about a bunch of different topics regarding Philadelphia sports, but also just sports in general. The main sports that we'll be covering will be basketball, baseball, football sometimes, but mainly focusing on basketball and baseball. We'll also cover other sports such as cricket, soccer, tennis. So we're going to get into a lot of different sports. So me personally, to get to know me better, I've grew up playing baseball, soccer, basketball, obviously, and I mainly wasn't the best athlete, I would say. I'm still very quick, very fast, but as far as the coordination and the skill level, I wasn't always the best, but I love just watching sports and learning more about them. So that's kind of what started this passion. So yeah, I think we'll be talking about a lot of different topics, but mainly for basketball in general. We're ending the near end of the season at this point. So me as a Sixers fan from the city of Philadelphia, we're going to be covering the Sixers a whole lot. We're also going to be covering the Phillies. Um, we'll get to the whole Eagles and Steelers situation, but it's the off season. So yeah, and then other sports such as tennis, lots of great tournaments that have happened in the past. Great players have performed really well. So we'll be covering those tournaments. And then for the MLS as well, be a little bit passive on that, but the Union just came off a great season, but unfortunately lost heartbreaking loss to the uh, LAFC. So yeah, I mean it's kind of a bounce back year for Philadelphia, but I think we're going to be getting a whole lot of great events coming up soon. So for the Sixers in particular, it's been kind of a whirlwind of a season. We started out pretty rough, starting like 12 and 13 or 12 and 12 or whatever, and then we bounced back. We had the best regular season record after the All-Star break as well. So we're shifting into gears now. We obviously had the injuries of James Harden and Embiid. So now getting them back healthy, it's going to be really crucial down this stretch of games. I think the prioritization of health and as well as load management, especially with those players, is really key. So Doc has been doing a great job. I know he gets a lot of hate, but I'm one of the big supporters of Doc Rivers. Hopefully, we keep him next season and we extend his contract. But yeah, so getting into how the Sixers have been performing the last week. So that's kind of what I'll be doing going into next season too. Just kind of a weekly podcast. So this podcast is pretty much going to be weekly. Going to be covering obviously once the basketball season ends, the baseball season, as well as other sports that kind of arise. So for the Sixers right now, we have some tough competition still coming up. We have games with the Bucks and the Celtics, two of our biggest rivals. So that's coming up this week. I think it'll be a really big statement game if we can get out there and perform really well and show them that we're not to be reckoned with and we're a force coming into the playoffs. I think the matchups with Embiid and Harden versus Giannis and Brook Lopez versus Tatum and Brown. Like it's kind of an interesting matchup, dual matchup really. And then obviously the role players. I think Boston has one of the deepest benches in the NBA, so it'll be interesting to see how Doc makes his shifts throughout the game to kind of adjust and keep playing competitively with their 6-man through 10-man lineup. Like they still have like Robert Williams. Sometimes he starts, sometimes he doesn't. They have Hauser. He's a good 3-point shooter. Derek White is obviously great. And Grant Williams, he's also pretty solid. And then also like Blake Griffin out of nowhere, he's just like chucking threes and so you never know what you're gonna. It's kind of a box of chocolates with the Boston Celtics. They pull something out of the hat like somebody goes off for like 4 or 5 threes and shifts the game around, so and then on top of that, adding Brown and Tatum's production, it's kind of tough to compete with, so I understand that they're one of the top teams in going into the playoffs, but I really think that our team matches up well with them. And if we can limit Brown and Tatum's impact, both on an offense and defense perspective, I think we can really compete. And I think it'll go 6 or 7 games if we do meet them in the playoffs, which we will, since they're locked in pretty much at the 2 seed. We're at the 3 seed. So I know there's like 2 games in between, but I think we'll probably stay consistently throughout that to the end of the season. So ideally, I think we're going to match up with Brooklyn. I think that'll be a better matchup than Miami. Miami has given us some trouble in the past. So and dating back to last season too, where they beat us in 6. So I think Brooklyn will definitely be a more favorable matchup, but I'm not really making too many assumptions as far as like what's going to happen in the next like week or so. So let's just see how it plays out. I think we'll definitely get a tough competitor in the first round. And in the second round, since 2 and 3 obviously play in the same bracket, we're going to be matching up with the Celtics. So really, it's going to be one of the tougher defining moments, I think, especially for Embiid's career and also the Sixers organization, is how can you overcome the Boston Celtics? Like just dating back to like the dates where Wilt and Bill Russell kind of competed year after year after year, and they every single year they just got the best of us, and then one time we kind of triumphed and ended up going to the championship, so I think one of those years is actually going to come up here too, so the Celtics have been having our number year after year, and it's going to be something to watch out for sure. So yeah, and then getting to the Milwaukee Bucks, like literally the best season I think they've had in a while. Obviously coming off this recent loss, this 40-point loss to the Celtics, doesn't really look well on them, but I think they'll definitely adjust and bring a better game forward heading into the postseason. So yeah, I think they're also very tough. Like Drew Holiday, he could definitely pop off for a high scoring game, a bunch of assists, and then you have Giannis, obviously, just one of the MVP competitors. So he's obviously going to be a force to be reckoned with. And then how he matches up with Lopez is really tough to guard. And Lopez, obviously 7-footer, Giannis close to 7 feet. So Embiid either has to play off of like Jalen McDaniels, and they have to shift with either him or Jalen McDaniels, or get a bigger guy on Giannis, such as Tobias Harris or Paul Reed, or someone. The two big guys have to be on the same court when Giannis and Lopez are on the court. And obviously, we're kind of a small ball lineup. We have Tucker, Maxey, Melton, and it's kind of tough to guard Giannis and Lopez when they're just dominating the paint like that, So Embiid's present has to be there. And then another big guy has to complement Embiid in that aspect, because Harden, he's not really the best at guarding bigger guys. I think he's better at small forwards and shooting guards, but it'll be something to watch out for. Yeah, and then other teams, other surprises, like you see the Knicks coming out of nowhere, having such a fantastic season. No disrespect to the Knicks, they beat us too, so they're definitely a tough team as well, and they can definitely wreak some havoc in the playoffs. They obviously, the experiment with Jalen Brunson has gone really well. They also complement each other, like all the lefties, Randall, Barrett, and Brunson. They all complement each other. And then you brought in a good back end piece such as Josh Hart. You have Mitchell Robinson, so you have a really good core there. And I think it's something to build off of next year. I do think the Cavs will get the better of them in the first round. And just basing off of the leap that the Cavs made this year, I think the combination of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley It's been really good. And also the backcourt with Mitchell and Garland, it's been really tough to guard. And sometimes when they're really streaky from the 3-pointer, like they're getting a lot of their shots to fall. Sometimes Mitchell has those off days at 3-pointers, but when they do, it's really tough to get back in the game because they can really run away with it. So I think the Cavs will definitely have it'll definitely be a tough matchup for sure, but I think the Cavs will get the best of them. So yeah, and then the Bucks and the Cavs, obviously think the Bucks will end up getting the best of them and going to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then it just depends, obviously, on the Sixers and the Celtics. It's really that's the pivotal matchup right there. Like if you can get past the Celtics, I think you'll definitely have a better chance at either beating the Bucks and going to one of the first championships in over 2 decades. Like that'll be something that it'll be remembered throughout the city of Philadelphia, and obviously this year will also be remembered to the city of Philadelphia. And obviously it's been kind of a losing season for other sports, but that doesn't take away from the actual effort that so many great players put into the regular season and the postseason. So yeah, I mean, yeah, so I think it'll be really cool to watch these playoffs. Definitely a treat to watch great players like Embiid and Harden go up against all the other guys. So yeah, and other topics. Obviously, the Western Conference is kind of like it's like neck and neck. Like there's like 6 through like 12, or I mean, not even 6, so like 5 through 12 is like literally like 2.5 to 3 games like crunched up. So it's definitely a toss up for sure, but I think teams that will prevail in that conference, obviously the Suns with the addition of Durant. I think the Warriors kind of piece things together and find a way to get past the either the Kings or whoever their first round matchup is. If it's actually the Suns, if it's like the Suns and the Warriors first round, I think that'll be a better matchup. And the Kings have been great all year, but they're young, inexperienced. I think I don't want to like disrespect any teams because they've put in the entire season, but I think experience will definitely play a big role in the playoffs. Yeah, and the Nuggets as well with MVP candidate Nikola Jokic. Obviously he's putting up a great season, triple double figures. So, and they also have good complementary pieces such as Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon. So they're definitely a tough team. But I think when it comes down to it, Embiid is really going to have something to talk about after the season, regardless of if he makes it to the finals or even the Eastern Conference Finals, or doesn't. So like Harden is also going to be a huge topic to discuss, whether he wants to move out or stay with us for the long term. I think that'll be a huge topic. And if, for instance, he does move out, how do we replace that production? How do we replace that presence? And he's definitely a leader out on the court. He facilitates the game so well. Even at this age, kind of the back end of his career, he's been such a huge role model to the other players on the court, such as like complimenting Paul Reed. Also, some of his teammates from Houston he brought on, such as Daniel House. PJ Tucker obviously is his great buddy. So yeah, I mean it's really going to be a defensive battle for sure. Just because our defensive rating is actually pretty good. So I'm gonna hop into the stats real quick and just see like where we kind of match up with other teams, how the season has progressed, and other sorts. So yeah. So um for instance, let's just go over just our basic stats. Basically, who's doing well, who's kind of outperforming, or who kind of needs to step up when the game presents itself. So, um, Yeah, so basically, Embiid, Harden, Maxey, Harris, and Melton. So when Harden and Embiid pretty much go off, they have their normal games. You know, they score well, they assist well, they rebound well, right? Other players, I think, kind of step off a little bit, and that's the time to still engage and be more productive with the team. You know, Maxi obviously contributes a decent amount, and he's a big role in our 3-point shooting as well. But other players really have to step up, and for instance, I think George Niang will definitely be a key component. I think he's going to be shooting a lot of threes, and he's actually our best 3-point shooter on the team. So when he gets the ball, I would look to create plays for him to get open and drive in more 3-pointers. McDaniels is a very big presence and a disruptive presence on defense, and he plays well with the shifts that Doc Rivers obviously has, but I think he can definitely complement Embiid when guarding those larger forwards and centers. But yeah, and then obviously when you're running a small ball lineup, I think when you get to it, I think the combination of Maxi and Melton will definitely be something to watch for. Milton obviously has his ups and downs, but I think he's really become a better shooter and a facilitator, and just taking a lot of plays to the rim. You know, like taking them hard and drawing contact, getting fouls. You know, like he's been pretty decent in that aspect. And then other players such as Paul Reed and Daniel House, kind of um, uh, the back end foundation after Embiid sits out for a period of time. I think they really need to step up and produce. And whether that's just being a disruptor around the rim or also just facilitating the offense better and getting open looks and setting screens and picks for other players to get open. I think those two players will definitely play a big role. Um, and Harrell has not really I don't see him playing too often now, as opposed to in the middle half of the season. So it'll be interesting if they still factor him in for some plays, or he's definitely an athletic center, and even though he's undersized, he definitely steps up. But that'll be interesting to watch. And then Tucker, obviously, he doesn't really score too much, but I think his just defensive presence and the impact that he has on the defense is really important. And now, if we just look at just overall stats in the NBA, so let's just compare where we match up with other teams, you know, as far as defensive rating, offensive rating, point differential, all that stuff, right? So why don't we go into the defensive leaders and see this is where we differentiate ourselves, right? So our defense is top of the league. Obviously, Cleveland has a fantastic defense, but we've been pretty much consistent with our defense, and obviously have to limit turnovers. Harden has to limit turnovers, and Embiid as well. But I think we've really done a good job of being more defensively disciplined and just stopping the plays that need to get stopped. You know, like Embiid stepped up for a lot of big blocks. And Harden has stolen a lot, right? Maxi, Melton's obviously fantastic at steals. So it's really good to watch them step up defensively as opposed to last season. And then let's just compare the defensive ratings. Um, so defense, oh, that's defensive rebounds. Where's like defensive ratings? I don't think they have it. But okay, anyways, I think one area that we lack is definitely uh actually we've stepped up offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. That's actually great to see. And I think the addition of McDaniels has really been a key impact on that. So the rebounds is really good. Oh, this is the opposite. Oh, Oh, okay. I just I just I just messed up that. So actually we're one of the worst rebounders in the league. So the stats kind of misled me on that. But yeah, so that was from bottom to top where I should have been top to bottom. But yeah, so we're one of the worst defensive rebounders in the league, and just overall rebounders in the league. And that's a glaring hole in my opinion. I think we've seen so many shots go up where we don't come down with the rebound, like Niang is like either tips the ball or it just goes somewhere, like Tucker is like not the best like athletic jumper in the league. So we definitely miss out on a lot of rebounds. And that definitely the second chance points definitely hurt us. So I think the rebound percentage definitely has to the amount of rebounds has to be better. See offensive rebounds here, it's got to be the other way around. So yeah, we're bottom of the league in offensive rebounds, bottom of the league with defensive rebounds. Like um, that's kind of unacceptable. Other teams which are great. See Boston, fantastic with defensive rebounds. They have big guys who literally are like well framed and they know how to box out and they're better at rebounds. Like Horford, he's going to get the rebound. Robert Williams going to get the rebound. Grant Williams going to get the rebound. Then you have the length of Tatum Brown. Like it's hard to give up a lot of offensive rebounds to them. So yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for. Their defensive rebound presence is huge. Um, and then another stat that I like to watch is the turnover to assist ratio. So if we can find that, that'll definitely be something. Um, so let's just go to stats. Let's go to advanced stats. Um, Oh, this is it. Okay. So yeah, the assist to turnover ratio. So this is really key. So obviously, Embiid has one of the lower ones. Obviously, he's a center. He doesn't get too many assists, but Harden has a 3.2, which is really good. But his turnovers are still somewhat high because he's the primary ball handler. And Maxi is really good. So 2.7 with only 1.3 turnovers per game is really good. So that's something I like to watch out for, like and obviously their percentages are great as well. So 3-point percentage, we're one of the top 3-point percentage teams in the league. So that's really encouraging to see. And Maxi stepping up with 42.7% from three is fantastic. I actually was wrong about that. So Maxi's actually the best 3-point shooter on our team. Then Niang is up next. So yeah, it's been pretty good to see both of them step up from three. Maxi in particular being out for a majority or a big portion of the season. So that was good to see. And then obviously field goal percentage is let's see 48%. So we'll see how that matches up to the rest of the league. We'll also just see how three-pointers match up. So let's get back to that. So I just want to compare how we're stacking up to other teams. Um yeah. So let's go to team stats. Let's go to offensive stats and let's see where we're at. So 3-point percentage, let's just see where that's at. So number one in the league. Fantastic. So and it's weird because as a person who watches like most of the games, like it doesn't really seem like we're the best 3-point percentage team in the league. Like it just seems like it just goes under the radar sometimes, but it's really an underrated stat to watch and it's definitely paid off for our team. Obviously the Celtics are still behind us here at 37.8. The Bucks are not a good 3-point shooting team. So that's something that the Sixers will definitely want to exploit. And other teams, obviously the Nuggets are great. I think one of their best 3-point shooters is KCP, Kentavious Caldwell Pope. So he's pretty solid. And I also should look at field goal percentage. So still, we're still top 10, which is great. Other teams, I think this stat is a little bit misleading. But I mean, we're still pretty good in the top 10. See, like Boston is like below like top 15 or like see that doesn't really make sense. I think it's more of the clutch moments. I think the clutch moments don't really uh uh pertain to any of these stats really. So you can't really judge off of if a team has the best field goal percentage, oh they're the best team, like you can't make those inferences. And then as a free throw percentage team, that's something that you can watch, and we're one of the best teams in the league for that. So Embiid, we can thank Embiid for that, especially he stepped up from the free throw line for sure. And even when he's like doing mid-range shots, like it's pretty much a bucket. So it's a walking bucket when Embiid is accurate from the free throw line. And other teams which are pretty good. Miami, Boston's obviously up there. So these are teams that are diligent with their free throws. They practice them day in and day out, and they don't miss too many shots. So that's really good to see. And then I think that's pretty much it. As far as blocks and our defense goes, I think uh, we're still okay from blocks. We don't have the best size, I would say, so that's why we're lagging here. Um, but oh, that's pretty interesting. So the Brooklyn Nets have the most blocks per game, which is pretty cool. Um, okay, so that's pretty much that. I think our team has pretty much stacked up well against teams. Now it's just a matter of can you get it done in the playoffs? Like this is the big storyline. Like, can you get it done in the playoffs and can you reach for the first time in a while the Eastern Conference Finals? So definitely some good storylines to follow. And hopefully the Sixers can get back on track. So that was basketball. So I think we'll definitely be tracking basketball for sure, especially since playoffs are starting soon. Um, we may hold off on baseball just because it's kind of like the beginning of the season, but I'll definitely make a video on that, a separate video on that, so that it doesn't get confused with like the storylines. So yeah, and other sports, obviously, tennis tournaments are fantastic. So I forget what's going on right, like the Miami Open is going on right now, and I'm pretty sure Roland Garros, the French Open, is coming up soon. So yeah, definitely some great things to watch. Nadal is definitely going to be there. King of Clay for sure. So yeah. And then I think this will pretty much be more conversational, more storyline focused. We'll also get into some great stats like I did right now. And just discussing things that could impact the game, just from a coaching perspective, from a player perspective, like and just an overall fan perspective too. So like just seeing like what I watch on the game, like the defensive discrepancies, the offensive discrepancies, just seeing where the team can improve, and just be better prepared heading into the playoffs. And pretty much like any season, like I want the Sixers to pretty much be a competitor year after year. Now obviously it's tough when either you don't have the right pieces together or the team is at the end of the life cycle, but I think building through the draft, so we'll be covering the draft for sure. We'll be covering key storylines, trades, signings, free agent signings, other areas where the team is getting impacted. And also keeping in mind just like how tight knit the group is. I think when the team is has good chemistry, they're clicking on all cylinders. I think teams can really go far. So um, yeah, that's pretty much that for this episode. Stay tuned. I think weekly we're going to be doing this. So we'll be checking in just to recap of how the week went. So all the games that happened this past week for basketball, we'll be covering that. And then other games such as the Phillies and whatnot. So definitely stay tuned for an hour long, pretty much in-depth analysis of what's going on in the sports world. So yeah, thanks again for watching. This is the new YouTube channel, Savani Sports and Entertainment. I'm also going to be these types of videos will be uploaded to the podcast, which is called The Timeout. I thought it was a cool name. I don't think anybody has that name, so I'll also just search on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if anybody's taken that. So yeah, so we'll be calling it The Timeout. And I'll be the host, Avin Savani. So, yeah, definitely. So feel free to stay in touch with me via Gmail. So our email address is savanisports@gmail.com, or you can also just type in the comments here, and I'll probably be opening up a just like one social media platform, whether that's like Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Like I'm just gonna stick to one and just go with that. And then we'll just see where it goes. So thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for more.